They're already changing a few things here now, hovering over the Faramis to go to the mid lane into the hands of Imam. And this will definitely help them because the Faramis was also one of the reasons as to why they weren't able to melt the Indonesian members down.
Not just melt the Indonesian members down, it's also the reason why they lost that fight where they were able to keep, Indonesia was able to keep Brands alive using that cold altar. And of course, off the back of a very great play from Brands himself. But with the Faramis in the picture, the Philippines have a lot more utility when it comes to actual survivability. They have a lot of saves, a lot of shielding, and now with the cold altar, that extra bit, that second chance at in the middle of a big fight. But for Indonesia, having more control on where the Philippines can maneuver around, that might be a better solution. They have banned away the Lapu-Lapu as well, so the dive potential from Philippines is very, very minimal, and we have to see what exactly will be the choice here, because for the Philippines, it seems to be the same thing. Front to back all the way, abuse range, save our core members, and just like that, the answer from Indonesia, Leslie, and now it's the Akai.
Well, now considering that they have these two very vulnerable backline heroes, they need something like the Akai to provide a bit more peel, cover for the team, but Philippines respond with Grok in the jungle for Del Rosario.
What?
We mentioned that he likes to go for some crazy picks sometimes, like the Valentina, the Guinevere as well in the jungle, while he's trying to pull off the Grok in the jungle now here in IESF. Last time we saw it, it was high.
It was high, and it's just a very interesting situation here because earlier in the game number 1,
use the caster curse to get the most value out of this incredible series of Indonesia versus Philippines once again as we jump into the land of dawn with Taz starting on the orange buff and Del Rosario doing the same on the opposite side.
Slow start for both these junglers. They are tankier junglers essentially, so they are going to be playing a lot more for utility, but I guess Taz on the Akai can be a lot more aggressive, and just like that you can see that the Philippines, they really enjoy using Villa Luna to get a lot of information and just be a big nuisance, and you can see the response coming in from the Indonesian players. The Philippines already dictating what the movements are going to be.
Both teams again just fighting for that mid control that is so prio, so necessary now in this current meta. Both Taz and Del Rosario are looking to go for this Lethal Wanderer, but it does feel like Indonesia will have a bit more of an advantage with the faster wave clear in the mid lane. That's the Lethal Wanderer secured by Taz, getting him a bit more XP and gold to play with. So he'll have that power spike very early on, already at level 4.
As we mentioned, the wave clear game is now being a lot more monitored, a lot more managed by the players from the side of Indonesia. They've suffered from it once, they are not trying to suffer the same fate again. So right now, they're just moving around, and I think before the first turtle spawns, it's going to be relatively slow. But as I say that though,
uh-oh, there you go. Ooh. That's the barrier with a wild charge. Psychos now going to be caught. First blood over to Philippines, but look at Taz. He's able to bring the members back in with a heavy spin. Del Rosario going to fall. The jungler for the XP lane, and Dapda will be forced to flicker out of there. Villa Luna a bit late on this rotation to match up against the Indonesian mid laners, but it is still just going to be a 1-for-1.
So 1-for-1, so both teams now holding their own, but this is where things get a bit hairy. The first turtle, where everyone has their ultimates, we have to see who can actually weave in the better team fight.
No ultimate for Del Rosario just now. Taz gonna go for it, will be able to secure the turtle with a brilliant retribution. Dreams gets knocked up, but Philippines decide to back off. Now Dreams flickering forward, gets the Divine Judgment onto Imam, who's able to flicker away. Psychots has the Black Dragon form, looking for it, just decides to zone the Filipino members here and backs off.
Back away, and we can take a look at how the changes have impacted this Faramis, right? The Cult Altar was used in that fight, and with one single spell, the rest of the team from Indonesia is able to melt down that HP bar. So it really isn't an all-win teamfight solution, but it is very situationally used to help save members from big burst damage.
Now it's a complete change from game number 1. Imam, though, going to be immobilized. That's the damage coming through. Whew. Sniped down by Brands, but the kill will go over to Hijume. Brands sacrificing a bit of gold there in the bottom side, but will still be able to catch up down below to pick up that cannon minion.
With stronger laners on the hands of the Indonesian players, they are now able to actually match the aggression, the fights, the skirmishes from the members of the Philippines. And now you can see that the Kaja pick is just having a lot more impact. This is what they wanted to do in game number 1, but the macro play coming in from the Philippines was able to deny that. That won't be the case for this game though, and now this becomes a contest of proactivity. Who can have the higher work rate, the more versatile maneuvers, and just the more proactive plays.
And this is the reason as to why I felt like the Leslie should have been the one, the hero, to be banned out by Team Philippines. Because you can see, on this Leslie, sure, you're very vulnerable, but you also are really good at actually going at duels up against the Beatrix. I would actually say in a 1v1, it's skill dependent, but Leslie has a bit of an edge. Why? Because he doesn't need to target any of his skills. It's not a skill shot. Meanwhile, for the Beatrix, you need to go for those render shots to actually be able to compete in that range battle.
They have to be careful though, because Soriano has the Blade of Despair completed, and it will be a big factor in the next fight. The Turtle is being pressured for both teams, but it seems like the Indonesians will have a bit of a lead in the control game.
Divine Judgment and the Petrify. Imam going to be able to pop the Cold Altar. Taz against 3 members, still able to secure the Turtle. Right now, Psychots jumps in with the Black Dragon form, zoning the backline away. Dapadap going to be pinned down onto the wall with the heavy spin, and that's Hijume who picks up the killing spree. Everything going well for Indonesia, and everything going wrong for Philippines in the early game of Game 2.
They lose a member to the pickoff, they lose a Turtle to the steal, so Indonesia is completely taking over and looking completely different. Is this a momentum thing? We'll just have to see. Hijume with the Ice Queen's 1 right now will ensure that the Filipino members need to be a bit more careful, even more careful in how they want to position. They've been getting caught out without that slow as well.
Brands has just been farming up a storm. I really want to take a look at these items, right? It's a good steal by Soriano, but he got full turret gold, clearing waves constantly. He should have more gold than Soriano here with the assist that he got as well. But here in the mid lane, the bottom side river, Del Rosario going to be chained up again, and that's the pin down by the heavy spin. Del Rosario going to fall for the second time in this game. Dreams with another Divine Judgment over to Imam, as that's the Nibiru's Passion dealing no damage over to Taz, who jumps in again. Soriano zoned away, but the damage coming in from Brands, shooting him down. Dapadap finally rotating towards that bottom side, but it's a bit too late once again. Team Philippines falling more and more behind as we go and progress into the game.
The Philippines are having very much trouble trying to manage distance because they're being slowed an insane amount. At any moment, it starts with the slow and then it gets followed up with the Divine Judgment, with the heavy spin. So Indonesia's pick-off game is going exactly how they want it to. And right now, they also have the advantage when it comes to range, and also when it comes to that late game. They have that artillery with the real-world manipulation, and they also have the Leslie that can do a lot of true damage up to 2k in a single hit. And in the late game, Soriano will have a lot of issues trying to get any impact done in the middle of a big team fight.
There's so much CC from Team Indonesia. There's a lot of survivability from Philippines, but they need to be able to utilize that crazy engage from the Wild Charge, and right now, it just doesn't feel like they are going to be able to. Taz there going for the Turtle. That's going to be the real world inflation that was popped into for Soriano to flicker out. They baited out the Cult Altar, and they baited out Villaluna into the other side of the wall. Mid lane turret going to be sieged down. Brands looking to poke the Filipino members, but it's a good disengage by both teams. It's still a small victory for Indonesia with that turtle take.
Look at how much movement, how much of a reaction you can see from the Filipino players whenever Psychots is on the map, whenever he makes an appearance. He wasn't even popping the Black Dragon form initially, and everybody was walking backwards in fear of that engage coming through. And when you are so focused like that, you are not looking at Taz with a heavy spin. You are not looking at Dreams waiting for that Divine Judgment.
What I want to look at is definitely the items here for Brands, because I wonder how much gold he's actually gone this game. So far, he has been left untouched to free farm. And he's dealing so much damage. That's going to be the flicker over to Divine Judgment as well to find Del Rosario. The true damage does its work. Brands picks up the kill. Dapadap trying to look for a re-engage now, but only taunting Taz. Look at the poke put down by Brands. Dream's going to be in the midst of it all right now, as he is going to be able to dish out some damage to zone the other members away. Dream still there with Psychots from Psychots with a Petrify to find Soriano, and the furious dive to get Imam low under the tier 1. gunned down by Brands. It's a 2-0 trade for Indonesia.
Unreal execution coming in from Indonesia right now. We thought that Psychots was the main distraction. He was the one coming in from behind. You barely notice it until it's way, way too late. Let's take a look at that replay right now. The fight was breaking up. There's a lot of action back and forth. And Psychots out of nowhere. The tower doesn't even matter because it's way too low. Indonesia able to actually push Philippines into a very uncomfortable position. And now, with all the advantages when it comes to crowd control, when it comes to damage, they are looking at a cruising victory in game number 2.
This is insane.
Unreal.
That's the word you can use for it, right? So much doubt for this Indonesian team after they qualified to represent Indonesia with only a week to prepare right after qualifying. Still able to play super well. And now they're rotating towards that top side. Taz soloing that lore. Del Rosario caught, no one there to help him out. Has to use the wild charge defensively and will lose out on a lot of HP. Brand still is able to get out. Has the flicker. They're going to go in for another re-engage here. Just some poke down onto the frontliners. And you can see that true damage, Rashi. I really wonder what the items are looking like right now because the damage is pretty unreal already in 9 minutes for a Leslie.
It comes with a true damage, and when you're concerned about the true damage, you can actually feel the burn coming in as well. Look at the items, as you mentioned. The Windtalker, the Endless Battle as well, allows him to get so much more burst damage initially, and after that, the Berserker's Fury allows him to dish out a healthy amount of DPS. On the other hand, you can see the Yves, right? Hijumi with the glowing wand. All these tanky members are taking percentage HP damage whenever he's dishing out these spells, and they are absolutely spammable. And the siege game is dangerous.
FILIPINA going to be caught in that real-world manipulation. Imam as well, zoned away. The wave manipulation from Indonesia, absolutely phenomenal, as they are going to be able to use the lore down below to pick up a turret. With Psychot zoning other members away with a Black Dragon form as well. That's base turret number 1 taken down. Top side pushing in, but Indonesia will decide to just play it slow, clear out the mid lane, and reset.
They have an absolute advantage when it comes down to those siege situations. Having the Yave, having the Leslie means that you do not have to go and force those fights because there's no other way for the Philippines to dish back that kind of damage. Soriano is the only solution they have, and at this point, when the only option you have, when you only have a single option, it becomes very easy for your opponents to try and adjust to that. But the Philippines, it seems like they are not willing to completely concede control just yet. They need to be very careful though, because the flank game, that flank game is just so on point from Indonesia right now.
This is what we saw in Game 1, only just the opposite happening here in Game 2. Indonesia having control the whole 10 minutes early on. Philippines with a very similar flanking position here to look for something, but it's going to be a concealed play from Indonesia. And oh my god, Dream finds the Divine Judgment onto the best possible target. Soriano's out. Dapadap has to flicker out, but Psychos chases him down with a passive. Dapadap still surviving here. Only one member taken down, but that might just be the member that Indonesia needs to pick up some more base turrets. That high ground control is no longer available for Soriano. Dapadap trying to go in for some damage right there, but it's actually going to be petrified from Imam. He's going to be taken down. The wild charge in desperation. Villa Luna in the back has to back off. It's an absolutely insane game and an insane performance from Indonesia as they knock Philippines down to the lower brackets.
Oh my, we have no words left right now. How was that possible? That is insane from Indonesia.
He did not lose a single retry battle up against a world champion. Up against the Filipino champions. That's Del Rosario, Wise from the Philippines. But like you mentioned, Rashi, this guy's the main man here. The utility, the damage, just take it all. Hijume was a perfect Yves in this game.
0 deaths, doing all utility game.
Lower brackets for Philippines. This is a scene that we have seen a few times before for the Philippines, right? Climbing their way from the lower brackets, but here...
None of the main carries have a death from Indonesia. That is crazy.
Brands, Hijume.
We can also talk about how Faramis, right? Same pattern. The team with the Faramis actually starts losing a lot of steam in the early game because the Cult Altar allows you to be